In the name of the Triune God, calls each living creature to life. In the world outside these walls today, many people are getting ready for Christmas and Hanukkah and all the other holidays going on. They're getting trees and they're buying presents and they're making guest lists and planning big meals. And in our tradition, these 4 weeks leading up to Christmas are not just about those things. This is Advent. It's a time of longing and hopeful expectation, but one in which we don't sweep the dark under the rug looking for the light. We own what we are experiencing honestly. And for many of us, this time is especially poignant. Some of us have lost beloveds recently. Some lost loved ones long ago, but that ache never really goes away. And some of us have other struggles around health, physical and mental, and jobs. Some of us have shame about what we have become or were never able to be. And some have experienced one of the hardest losses, which is the thing you never had. So this season, these losses can feel especially painful when everywhere we go, we just see festivity and cheer and happiness. It can feel as if we don't belong. The first 6 weeks after a funeral, people can be so kind. But then the rest of the world moves on, and we cannot. It can feel as if we're forgotten. And so we gather here. We gather together in church to lament together and mourn and worship all at the same time. We concentrate our grief and direct it to God. Some of you might find it difficult to trust or even believe in God in your grief. I get it. What do we even make of a God who doesn't prevent suffering in this world? Well, in all my years in seminary and as a priest, I've never heard an answer to that question that satisfied both my mind and my heart. But I can share a little bit about my own experience. You know, in 12-step programs, they know it's a bad idea to try to give anybody advice. Instead, they share what they call their experience, strength, and hope. So that's what I'm going to do. And forgive me, I have shared this story once before here, but it remains a story that has been pivotal in my own journey of grief and healing with God. So most of you know that I have a beautiful 14-year-old daughter, Carly, and I also had 4 miscarriages. And one year in the fall, we were trying to get pregnant for the last time. And I remember seeing the pregnancy stick and 2 lines on it. And I was afraid to hope for another baby. But fall continued, and I was still pregnant. And Thanksgiving came and went, and I was still pregnant. And Advent came, and I miscarried. And I remember thinking, I couldn't possibly come to church. I didn't think I could stand hearing about pregnant Mary. But I did decide to go. And in the church where I attended, there were a lot of artists in that church, and there were 14 stations of the cross all the way around the sanctuary. And the stations of the cross, if you're not familiar with them, they depict Jesus' arrest and crucifixion and death. And that morning, when I went to church, I sat in my usual spot in the pews. I always sat in exactly the same spot. And at some point in the service, I looked up and I saw the station of the cross that was closest to where I was sitting. And it was Mary, holding her dead son in her arms. And suddenly I realized that our tradition is not cute. It is not the story about a perfect family with 2.2 children living behind a white picket fence in a perfect neighborhood. This sweet nativity scene we have here is deceptively cozy and beautiful. In fact, it was the story of an unwed, pregnant teenager who was forced to travel to register in her hometown so her colonial oppressor could tax her. It was the story of a baby born to a peasant family who had to become refugees because of political persecution. And it was the story of a mother who dearly loved her son, who had to watch him die. And what I realized in that moment that was so far beyond intellect, it was what I felt, was that our tradition is like this giant castle on the shores of a sea, and the waves of loss and violence and grief can crash against it, but can't destroy it. The stories of our tradition are big enough for each of the stories that we brought with us today. We aren't on the outside peering through the windows of this tradition like kids at a candy store. We are at the heart of it, the heart of our tradition. Today, this evening. Our God is a God who deals with human suffering by entering into it with us. God is closer than your own breath, than your own name, and weeps with us. If you want to know where is God, God is right in the heart of your own pain. And the love of God is stronger than death or violence or shame or loss. When everything else crumbles away, the love of God for us and with us remains. So in this tradition, out of situations of no hope or breathtaking pain, God is with us gently and ultimately breathes life into us, like the life breathed into Jesus in the tomb, the life God breathed into the nostrils of the first human, the life God spoke into being at the beginning of all creation, like the first shoot that comes up out of the ground in springtime. Soon it will be the longest night of the year, and it's no accident that the baby Jesus comes to us so close to the winter solstice. My prayer for you in this darkest time of the year is that you know utterly that you are not forgotten. As the reading from Isaiah says, can a nursing mother forget her child? Even if she forgets, I will not forget you, says God. May this God, for whom you have never been or ever will be forgotten, wipe every tear from your eyes, because God has also wept. May God embrace you with a love that is eternal, that will never let go of you. And may the seed of hope be planted deep in your being. Amen.